Happy Monday morning, everybody, and thanks for checking into our latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Brand new week as it's Monday, September 15th, and before markets open, let's quickly recap how cannabis stocks closed out last week, especially MSOS, and talk about what you need to watch as we head into this brand new trading week. The big picture here, last week, as we know, was tough for U.S. equities overall, and cannabis was caught in this turbulence. But also important to clear, not everything moved the same, and that's where the details matter here this morning. So let's get into it because this is the latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. All right, let's look back at last week, and on Friday, the advisor shares pure U.S. cannabis ETF MSOS. It finished at $420, down about 4% on the day. Its net asset value set slightly higher at $425, which means shares were trading at a small discount to the actual value of the fund. So nothing unusual here, but it does show investors were leaning cautious heading into the weekend. So now what? That's a number that puts MSOS right above very important support zone. But before we get into that chart levels, let's take a step back. Not every cannabis stock saw the same kind of selling pressure. Some of the senior NASDAQ-listed names, companies like Organigram, Village Farms, High Tide, and SNDL actually held up better than a lot of the smaller U.S. OTC operators. So that's important to outline, especially when money tends to flow towards names with stronger balance sheets and more stable exchange listings. So while MSOS took a hit, those senior names offered a bit of safe harbor. So an important theme as we set up for this week moving ahead. Now, I bring all this up because on our Trade to Black live stream last Friday, Dan from the Chart Guy walked us through some of the technical setups and really what some of the investors should be paying attention to. He highlighted the critical levels for MSOS, pointed out why volume is so important right now, and underlined that relative strength in these senior listings is worth noting. So with that, let's start with MSOS. The number to circle is that $4 to $4.10 support zone. Closing at $4.20 keeps us above it for now, but there isn't much margin for error. If MSOS loses that support, the chart suggests we could quickly slide towards the 380 to 390 range, which is where a prior gap sits. Gaps like that have a habit of getting filled, so that's your downside risk if $4 doesn't hold. On the flip side, resistance is stacked up in the 450 to 470 range. We've seen buyers try to reclaim that zone a few times, but so far, each push has stalled. So unless we get convincing volume to break through, it will remain a ceiling on the chart. So heading into this week, the roadmap for MSOS is tight and very clear. Hold the line at $4 or test the waters lower. Push convincingly above $4.50 or risk more sideways action. These are some of the things he outlined if we continue to see delays on a rescheduling announcement. So really, what should investors actually prepare for this week? First, as I said, watch MSOS behave around the 420 mark. If it drifts lower towards support, do buyers step in and stabilize things? And second, keep your eye on volume. Moves without volume doesn't mean much, but if we see big spikes in either direction, that tells you whether the bulls or the bears are really in control here. And third, watch for some of these senior names on the NASDAQ. High Tide's going to be announcing their earnings coming up after market today. So if they continue to hold steady while MSOS weakens, so that's a sign that money is rotating to stability right now. 4, keep catalysts in mind. Rescheduling, as I said, it remains the elephant in the room. If we get that headline this week, or if we don't, the markets clearly will react. And like I said, on top of that, earnings are in play. High Tide is set to report after market here today, and the reaction to the results could set the tone for retail-focused operators in particular. And finally, don't forget the broader market backdrop. If tech and growth stocks keep struggling, cannabis is going to have a tough time not being able to swim against the current for long. So keep that in mind as well. So technically speaking, MSOS is still stuck in a short-term downtrend. We've been seeing lower highs and lower lows since the summer peak. So before we start to panic, that doesn't mean disaster is inevitable, but it does mean bulls have to prove themselves. And until they break that pattern with conviction, the trend favors caution right now. Also, keep those gap levels in mind as well. Price action often gravitates towards unfilled gaps, and that 380 to 390 zone is sitting right below current support. So the best case this week would be MSOS holding above $4, consolidating between $4 and $4.30, and tightening up its range. So with that kind of action would signal potential accumulation. The worst case, a decisive breakdown below $4 with heavy volume, which would almost certainly invite another leg lower. So this is the impact impact right now as a major announcement is still pending. We need news. We know how this industry performs. Also important to outline too, full disclosure, I am a shareholder of MSOS. So as we bring this all together, how should investors think about everything? If you're trading short term, you need your stops defined and your plan in place. If you're holding long term, don't panic over every single tick, but be aware of where support zones are. And for everyone, keep relative strength in mind. If senior NASDAQ names keep showing stability, it's worth paying attention to. Let's face it, sometimes in markets like this, the safer play is simply picking your spots in stronger names instead of chasing the weaker ones. Now, there's a lot of strong names in the industry right now, but as I said, some of these senior listings are seeing some stability right now. So that's it. This is your Monday morning checklist. Watch MSOS at 420 right out of the gate. If it slips closer to $4, pay attention to whether buyers defend that level or step aside. Look obviously for any headlines, rescheduling. I think you all know that's common sense. And even silence can move some sentiment as well because delay fuels uncertainty. So here we go. Brand new week. This is our latest TDR Cannabis in 5. Make sure to give it a like, smash on that bell for all notifications, and let us know in the comments section below what you're prepping for this week. In the meantime, enjoy your day. This is the latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care.